Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get a closer look at the UI and see how user friendly it is. We are going to toggle the power on the camera on the left side. Once the camera is on, we will go ahead and just touch up on the user interface. You got your M button here, which is the menu button. This blinks when you're recording, so that's why you see the up arrow blinking. But if it's not blinking, this functions as the up arrow. Select button, which is the OK. You got your down arrow, which is the right arrow right here, and also your screen toggle switch. The screen toggle switch is pretty interesting because once you have the rear camera plugged in, usually you go ahead and there's 3 modes. The default mode is your picture-in-picture, meaning you have your rear view camera on the upper left and your main camera focus as a whole screen. Right, so we are going to stop recording by pressing this up arrow and go into the menu system. I'm not really going to the setup because it's kind of self-explanatory. You got your languages, multi-languages, English, French, Spanish, goes on to Italian, Japanese, and all that, Russian. So format SD card. This camera is capable of recording using a max of 256 gigabytes of storage. What you're going to do is you're going to format it before you use the camera, or it's recommended by the company. They also recommend using Samsung high endurance or the Evo cards and not the SanDisks. You got your auto LCD off, in which we set it to 1 minute. So after 1 minute of starting up the car, this turns off, which is definitely helpful because it's a less distraction to the driver. The non-use auto power off, I think it negates the parking mode because it shuts off the power after a period of non-activity, and so you can set it to 1 minute, 2, 3, I think 5 and 10. So we will set it to off because again, I think it just inhibits the parking mode from activating. Device sound, we set it to on. Frequency is default. System info is just your firmware info. Default setting is your factory reset. GPS, we also set it to on, and speed limit, we set it to miles per hour because we're in North America. Moving forward, you got your files. This, you could go ahead and just kind of touch up on whether or not you recorded the event. Maybe you got an accident and you want to do a quick view on the spot. This is the menu option to do so. Having said that, we're going to move on to record setup. The record setup, the resolution max is 2K, so this is a 2K camera. It defaults to 2K if you want to set it to 2K, but once you have the rear camera plugged in, the only setting that you could record at is 1080 at 60 frames per second. Alright, so we're gonna leave it at 2K just in case for now. And then loop recording, we like to set it to 5 minutes, I believe. G sensor, we like to set it to low due to this is a really sensitive sensor, so basically even after closing the door, it goes ahead and set off the camera. We're in the city, so the roads are not even that great either, so the more the higher sensitivity that you set it to, the more locked files that you do get, and it kind of takes up the storage. Audio recording, we have it set to on just in case. Exposure is default. HDR, we set it to on. Number plate is your license plate, we set it to off. Stamp, basically everything you see here, your date, your time. The Vantrue stamp is the watermark, so you can either set it to on or off. It's not going to really inhibit the picture. GPS, we set it to on, right? So time lapse, we just like to do video, so we're gonna set it to off. Basically, what time lapse is it kind of bursts into multiple photos and stitches it to a video. I believe since we have a 128, we're just gonna leave it to off. Parking mode, we definitely set it to on. Alright, in order for parking mode to work, again, you either need a battery pack or a power bank in your vehicle, or you leave it, you hardwire the camera to your car battery. I'm going to try to make this as steady as possible and try to let you guys see how parking mode works. So, in order to stop recording, we're going to press this button here, which is flashing. Again, flashing means that it's recording. Press it once, it's going to stop recording. Alright, and in order to set parking mode, there's 2 ways. Either after 5 minutes of inactivity, it's going to go into parking mode, but we're not going to really wait 5 minutes. In order to manually toggle it, we're going to press OK and long press. After long pressing, you will see a P, and it's in parking mode. If somehow I'm holding the camera, so while holding the camera I have to hold it steady. Because it's really hard to keep it steady, I'm just kind of motion it. Once it detects motion, it's going to start recording. After about 10 to I believe it's 10 to 11 seconds or so, it's going to go ahead and toggle off, or if the motion stops. So right there, it's going to toggle off, and then from there, okay, so this is bad timing because the auto LCD is also activated. So because as you see right here, it's blinking, that means the camera sensed the motion, right? So because of that, it started recording again. So what's next? In order for you to take a picture, there's 2 ways to do so. If you're recording right now, you could double tap the OK button. Pressing it once will lock it. Locking it means you can't, the camera will not overwrite the file right now. So you press it once, you see the key, it's gonna lock the file. It's not gonna, even if it's in loop setting for 5 minutes, it's not gonna go ahead and record over this file. If you want to take a picture, you're gonna press it again 1 time, and there's a picture. So basically you're double tapping it, right? So if you want to take a picture again, the other way is to stop recording, and you press the OK button, and that takes the picture for you as well. As you can tell, you got your 2K camera, your settings right here, your 2K 24 frames per second, your HDR, you got your GPS activated, your 5-minute loop, your G sensor. This G sensor is either on or off. It doesn't tell you your sensitivity level. Your date, time, your exposure, your mic. If you want to toggle on and off the mic, you could press this down arrow. And once you toggle it, you see that it's crossed out right here. So that means your camera is not recording sound, so you're mute. You toggle on again, it's going to be on. So now, right now, it's recording sound. Alright, so I would like to kind of touch up on the pros and cons of the camera before I end the video. The pros, let's go ahead and start with that. Is basically the company itself, the customer service. As you can tell, I have an N2 Pro running on the Golf R. Previously, I had a couple issues with the suction mount where it kept dropping during the heat. Vantrue stuck with me. They sent me a couple just to make sure everything was good, and that's why I stuck with the S1. Just based on the customer service alone, they're really great. They answer all my emails, so I really like that about the company. So customer service relations on top notch. Secondly, I would say it's because of the N2 quality that I decided to give the S1 a shot, and as you can tell, it's really high build quality. Even under here they have ventilation just to go ahead. It's super capacitor battery, so they want to make sure nothing overheats, so you have well ventilation here. Overall, the buttons are pretty tactile, and it's not making any type of rattling noises, right? So if you shake the camera, it's not going ahead, and the buttons aren't moving. That's my point. So moving on, you got basically I think this is a okay placement for the SD card. I would prefer it to be on the side. Maybe since they have the whole point of this camera being the shape it is, I believe is because of the GPS mount. Instead of a third-party module, they actually stuck it inside this whole camera. So I think this is why the camera itself is so big, or it takes up a lot of real estate on the windshield. So it's not your traditional wedge-shaped design, like a trapezoid, in which I think it's one of the downfalls of this camera. But at the same time, I think they also try to make this camera able to go ahead and toggle left and right, up and down, so you can get the perfect view, in which it benefits the XC60 as well, because XC60 has so much safety tech on the center of the windshield that we have to mount it to the right side, in which all we had to do was kind of shift this camera to to your left like so, and it centers off the image. So this is really the perfect camera for the XT60 so far. Moving on, just make sure once you tack it onto the windshield, leave enough space for the SD card to go ahead and come out. Otherwise, you have to kind of reposition the 3M tape. The 3M tape is authentic 3M tape, so it's it grabs on really well. Another thing I like about it is because I have so much trouble with the suction mount in the past, I prefer it to be 3M tape to the windshield. The only drawback is you have to be really careful before mounting it. Trick is to kind of just tear off the 3M sticker partially so you could get a nice positioning, then tear off the rest of the sticker so you get the best positioning possible. Because it's tacked onto the windshield, you're not going to get any type of shaky footage. I think that's one of the pros as well. Moving on, I like the fact that it comes with a rear view camera. I was deciding whether or not to get a N2 for the XT60 or get a dedicated camera to get the rear. So another thing that Vantrue provides is, I think it's like more than a 20-foot cable, and that gives me enough space for me to snake everything through the door sill on the bottom and not through the A-pillar, because we don't want to inhibit any type of airbags from being functional or protecting the passenger. So that was long enough for me to snake it through, down, and then up through the ceiling to the rear of the vehicle. So it's heavy duty mini USB wiring as well. So kudos to Vantrue for providing that. So moving on to the negatives of the camera, there aren't really many, but there are some that I would like to kind of address. The first thing is maybe the design. I think Vantrue, maybe for the S2 model or something like that, S1 Pro, for them to kind of slim up the form factor. Again, I understand why they have such a big form factor. It's because of this adjustable camera lens, and also maybe the GPS is built in, but I would like it for it to be more of a traditional form factor. But I think the toggle switch is something that is really useful if you want to kind of get a full picture of the rear view camera. But speaking of the rear view camera, I think that's the most negative, or the only thing that I didn't like about it is the fact that the right angle or 90-degree angle mini USB that they supply for the rear view camera, it inhibits the camera from toggling or lowering or getting the perfect angle. So as we were trying to get the perfect image, because it was an SUV and how highly it was placed, we had to lower the angle of the lens. And based on that, this part right here and this wire here got caught up on the windshield, so there's a limit to how low we can angle the camera. Luckily, at the limit of the camera, or the lowest that it could go, gave the camera a decent enough of an angle and image for us to be satisfactory with everything. But I think in order for Vantrue to resolve this is either to provide us with another USB connection, mini USB connection that is straight and not angular, or they could kind of separate the lens from the toggle switch from being connected directly to the mini USB connection. So in terms of design, I would like to end the video by throwing up a few clips and have you guys decide whether or not the images and videos are satisfactory for a dash camera of this caliber. Again, it's $199 for the N2 Pro and also $199 for the S1. Basically, I think at this point, with the 1080 resolution, it's pretty much meets my need for a dash camera. It records accidents or it records events as it happens. For the most part, just like any ordinary or your competitors, I don't think the license plate can be captured all the time, especially when you have glare from the sun, especially when you have taillights or headlights inhibiting interrupting the sensors, right? But having said that, I think maybe as a design idea, maybe Vantrue could provide some sort of screw-on ND filter, or maybe even like a a filter attached to it where you could swivel away and you know, for the night, and when it's really sunny you could kind of swivel back for the ND filter to kind of filter out the sunlight and make glare less of an issue. So this basically sums up my review of the Vantrue S1. If you guys have other questions that I really haven't touched base on, just leave it in the comments down below and I'll try my best to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I'll direct you to Vantrue themselves. But thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace. Wow, so pretty much pulled right after 3,000 RPM. This is in third gear right now.
Since last time with you, oh no, after that was in the parking lot. Was it pouring here today?